Hi everyone, welcome to day 31 of our journey with the Holy Spirit, and the book that we're looking at, 40 Days with the Holy Spirit by Jack Levison. And today's reading is from the book of Acts, the great story of the early church and of how it came into being. And this is from chapter 13. I'm just going to read it for you. It says, "Now in the church at that time in Antioch, there were prophets and teachers, Barnabas, Simon, who was called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, a member of the court of Herod the ruler, and Saul. And while they were worshipping the Lord together and fasting, the Holy Spirit said to them, 'Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work for which I have called them.' So then, after fasting and praying again, the group laid their hands upon Barnabas and Saul and sent them off on their journey." Now, at one level, that seems like a group of friends setting off a couple of other friends on a journey, and that's true. But there's so much more behind this passage. Like so much of the book of Acts, we can read lists of names or places and not really appreciate fully what they meant, because we live in very different times. But Antioch up in Syria was a really thriving Christian community, probably next to the church in Jerusalem, the next most thriving community in Christianity. And in fact, it was the first place where people were called Christian. And part of that was because of this faithfulness to worship and to prayer and to fasting. And we can have all sorts of different strategies, we can have all sorts of ideas, but what Jack Levison goes into in his writing for today is the wonderful gift of the faithfulness of ordinary people that creates the fertile ground upon which amazing things can happen. And in this case, for Barnabas and Saul to set off from this group in their first amazing missionary journey, they took part in 3 missionary journeys, and through them the gospel got all the way to Rome, and from Rome throughout the whole of the Roman Empire. Incredible. But part of it is due at least to the faithfulness both of these characters who came from many different parts of the Roman Empire, but many others I'm sure too, who are not named, who met for worship and for prayer and for fasting. And what is fasting in this context? Well, it can be the abstinence of food or whatever, but it's also about, I think, for me at least, it's also about a focus on not just church or what we're doing, but upon Jesus himself. It's a bit like when we take up New Year's resolutions. Is it so, and Lent, for instance, is it so that we just can pride ourselves on the fact we've given up chocolate? Or is it so that we can actually make time and space in our lives to grow to know Jesus more, to grow to know his heart more? I love the phrase from the Celtic tradition, to feel the heartbeat of God. That's a big thing. But it comes through these one-on-one times and through listening. And one of the things I think about when I think about this story from Barnabas and Saul and the work of the Spirit, is when I think about people like Sue Hoskins, who's just gone off to start her ministry in Rington, and I think about Jo Stobart, as she is now, down at Ilminster, and many others that have been part of the life of these churches over the years. Yes, they've all got amazing gifts, they've all done amazing things, but it's also the faithfulness and the prayer of many ordinary people who have been so thoughtful and kind and generous that has enabled that spirit of generosity and adventure to blossom within people like Jo and Sue and others. And I believe that's the work of the Holy Spirit. So it's not just about characters taking on new roles or whatever, it's actually about the faithfulness and the kindness and the gentleness of so many more. May not be named in the Gospels or in the book of Acts, but known by God for every prayer, every thought, every kindness. So to all of you who've done so over the years, please keep going. Please keep going. At this time, as we emerge from the lockdown and thinking about what the future might look like, it needs all of us to be willing to pray, to worship, even when we're having tough days, to find that worship song, that joy in our hearts that opens our spirits to the joyful Spirit of God, even if we're in our toughest of places. And also to fast, not so much just the abstinence of something, but to focus on Jesus and who he is, not just 2,000 years ago even, but today, in our very midst, and what he would call us to be and to do. So please keep going, and we look forward to the Holy Spirit praying and working through us as we try to do so. God bless everyone. Have a good rest of the day. See you in a couple of days. Bye for now.